family? It's your favorite cousin, your favorite nephew, your favorite uncle, your favorite father, your favorite son, your best friend's best friend. It's me, Dr. Larry, and welcome to Living For You, the YouTube channel. This is a safe space. It is a positive place in which we come together, we gather together, we discuss different topics, and we grow with each other and share with each other on this journey that we all have in common, and that is the journey of life. So welcome, 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 welcome. My lovely family, of course, every beginning of the video, I shout you out. I love you guys. Thank you for leaving the comments. Thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for liking the videos. And while you're at it, go ahead and like this video for me. I appreciate you. I love you guys beyond, and you know that. To those of you who watch the videos, you also go ahead and like the video, but what you also need to do is go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you know when a new video comes out. It comes out usually twice a week, typically, unless it's a busy week, and probably once, but generally I come out twice a week with a video on the topic, on different things, as far as entertainment, as far as education, and so many things. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There's no point in watching the video if you're not part of this lovely, fantastic family. And to those of you who've never seen my face or who have never heard my voice, I am Dr. Larry Smith. I'm a certified life and spiritual coach. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an educator. I'm a historian. I'm a minister. I'm a spiritualist. I have a lot of titles. So if you want to know more about me, you can actually go out to my website for my coaching business, which is Live For You Coaching, and you can find that at www.liveforyoucoaching.com. That is www.liveforyoucoaching.com, and out there are so many resources and things that you can find, access to my book, and so much more. So go out there. And if you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me at Dr. Larry Smith on both Instagram and Facebook. That is Dr. Larry Smith on both Facebook and Instagram. So anyway, family, I wanted to get on because I saw a tweet by Tichina Arnold. And for those of you who don't know Tichina Arnold, she's kind of black famous. She was Pam in Martin. She was the mother in Everybody Loves Chris. She's hosted the Soul Train Awards, I think, a few times with her best friend, Tisha Campbell. She was in Little Shop of Horrors with Rick Moranis and Bill Murray back in the day, and the list goes on and on to some of her credits. So she's pretty known out there, but she had a question, and she said, this is a serious question. She said, Black women in America, how do we aid in the stopping of the emasculation of Black men in America? And I thought that that was a phenomenal question, and it deserves some sense of recognition. So I wanted to get on today and talk about not necessarily just that question, but talk about manhood, masculinity, emasculation, masculation, whatever you want to label it, call it, however we're going to put it. We're going to talk about that here today. All right, so think about it. That has been a common discussion that has not just been happening this year, but I've seen this discussion probably year upon year upon year upon year. And we know, of course, at the Oscars with the Will Smith, Chris Rock situation, it brought up more of that conversation about emasculation or masculinity, manhood, toxic masculinity, and all these other conversations that we have around masculinity. But for Black men, the conversation of masculinity is a very deep conversation. And of course, for us who are born here, who have ancestors who came here through the slave experience, that is where the conversation gets its foundation from. Slavery was not just dehumanizing in a grand way to Black people. It wasn't just a violent institution. It was also an institution in which Black men were not treated as Black men. Many of them were treated as boys. Many of them were treated femininely. Many of them were treated less than man. And so Black manhood and Black masculinity is a sensitive subject because there has been kind of a fight to understand what it is, to show it, and to display it. And even when you go beyond the slave experience, when you talk about the Jim Crow era, all the way up until even modern times, you know, the concept of the angry Black man, when a Black man shows a little bit more of his aggression or a little bit more of his tougher side, that comes out. It's a threat, obviously, to police and to so many others, to other people, Black masculinity or Black men demonstrating masculine behaviors. And then, of course, when you add on top of that the LGBTQ plus community and other communities in which there is kind of a blurry line sometimes between masculine and feminine and all these different things, it adds to so much chaos and confusion and contention within the Black community, specifically amongst Black men and Black women as it relates to Black manhood. So her question is poignant in so many ways because it taps into that. And I want to kind of answer the question, but I also want to kind of give a little bit more. Now, you guys who have been following me, you know I've had this conversation, and there are videos in my category, I guess you would say in my lexicon, that you can go watch, in which I address that topic of black masculinity and what it means. And in short, I actually do not believe masculinity is something that you physically display. Some of the least masculine men are more aggressive physically to try to prove their masculinity. But for me, masculinity is how you carry yourself on the inside. Are you a person of character? Are you honest? Are you trustworthy? Are you strong in your resilience? Can you keep your composure together when there is a situation? If you ask me, between the whole Chris Rock, Will Smith situation, Chris Rock was more of the masculine, manly type person because he kept his cool and composure in that tense situation, in the interaction between him and the smack. However, you know, some people might say Will was being more of the man because he stood up for his woman and he did all those things. But for me, a man only acts aggressive in defense of his family, his loved ones, himself, if it's being matched with aggression. Just randomly acting out aggression, to me, is not masculinity. And so, for me, I do not feel that Will acted necessarily in the most man-like way, even though he was defending his wife, according to him. So it just depends on your matter of interpretation. That's just simply mine. Take it or leave it, whatever it is. But for me, masculinity is more than just a physical, outward display of manhood. And I do believe, personally, also, that masculinity and femininity should be something embedded in each and every person. That in the right moments, if you are a person connected to yourself, that's with the capital S, connected to your inner self, connected to your higher self, your being, who you are, then you are able to weave between the masculine and feminine when it's appropriate in your life. So for example, if you're caring for a child, you're not going to want to be rough and tough and macho with that child. You want to kind of be delicate and soft, which is more nurturing and more feminine. Or if you're in a situation where you have to be aggressive or you have to be competitive, you're going to put forth your strongest effort and your most aggression, which is a kind of a masculine energy. And you should be able to interweave in and out of them given the circumstances, and it be nothing to it. It's even when it comes to romance. We think of the woman as having to be the soft one and the delicate one, and a man not being able to show his emotions. But men should be able to show their emotions just like women can show their emotions, and women should be able to be a provider and be a comforter when there needs to be one, and they should be able to balance each other out, because you're not going to always be strong and masculine all the time. You're not going to always be feminine and feminine-like all the time. You have to be able to weave between the two. And so, in answer to her question, there are several ways in which black women have aided in the emasculation of black men. One of the earliest things is how they treat their sons. Sometimes black women treat their sons in an aggressive way. When we see the phenomenon of black men running outside of their race to find a woman, because usually when you hear them have the conversation, they'll say things like it's because black women are too aggressive, they can't be controlled, they be too dominant, and they're not feminine enough, yada, yada, yada. Which is just sometimes a bunch of BS to make an excuse for one to go date outside your race, which is perfectly your right to do so. But it shouldn't be because of the things you hate about black women. It should be more of your preference, a preference of yours. And I think people can respect that a lot more than having to put down a black woman or effeminate a black woman just to feel whatever, just to make an explanation or a justification for where you are in dating outside of your race. However, what it is grounded in is their experiences sometimes of their mothers. And black women have to sometimes be strong. Sometimes they're raising boys on their own. Sometimes they are having to face certain adversity and obstacles just in society that makes them a little bit more tougher, where they have to do a lot, and they have to hold a lot and carry a lot. And that will aid in them being a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more tougher. But I think what happens is not being able to show a sensitive side to your sons and not allowing your sons to show their sensitive side aids in the emasculation of black men. What do I mean when I say that? I was told as a kid, many boys I knew and men I knew as kids were told, boys don't cry, by our mothers. Why are you crying like a punk? Or why are you crying like this? Or why are you doing all of these other things? Girls cry. You're a little boy, you shouldn't cry. In that moment, you're telling that boy that he should not show emotions. And what happens is you're telling him that emotions are less than masculine. That aids in the emasculation of black boys and black men. Or when a mother gets into an intimate relationship with their sons. What I mean by that? It may not necessarily be sexual, but I know many mothers, mine included, who find comfort and solace in the son, the oldest son, who takes the place of some man that may not be around, whether it's a husband, whether it's a partner. They don't have that, and so they pass all of that on in surrogacy onto their sons. And it becomes a relationship in which the sons have to feel protective of their mother, protective of everybody in their lives, but it doesn't allow the son to grow up in a healthy fashion because they have to present manhood to not be weak for their mothers. That aids in the emasculation of black men. It goes even further. One of the biggest insults that I see across the board when it comes to black women, when they want to disrespect the black man or put him down, is calling him out of his sexuality or calling him gay, as though gay is an equivalent to emasculate. Right? I've seen interviews where they've asked girls would they date a bisexual male, and they're like, no, because I don't want to date a gay guy. And it's the reference point is that that's a weakness, that's a femininity. If you are gay, you are less than a man. And so therefore that's hurled as an insult to try to emasculate a man. And because sometimes men are boys on the inside in adult bodies, that is an insult to them, and they get irate and they act even more irritable and toxic than they would have if that wasn't an insult. That is a huge insult to a black heterosexual cisgender man, because you are trying to make him feel less than. So those are some of the few ways, in which black women emasculate black men. Also in the idea of, we know, for example, that black women are some of the highest educated people in this country, and they are surpassing black men in their attainment of wealth, in their attainment of education, in their career attainments, in life attainments, and so much. And so what happens sometimes is women use that as a tool to beat down the black man. A woman will tell you hands down, some of them will tell you hands down that I don't date a man who makes less than me. But looking at what you have based on what's happening educationally wise, you're more than likely to wind up in that situation in many cities. So are you going to see that person as less than? Because if he can provide for you, if he can provide for your family, if he is hardworking, if he is committed, if he is faithful, if he is loyal, if he respects you, if he adores you and honors and cherishes you, it shouldn't matter what's in his bank account. Because at the end of the day, y'all are working at that together. And so there is an emasculation when it comes to attainment of success and wealth and education on the behalf of black women towards black men. If we wiped out all those things, we would be on the path to helping to stop the emasculation of black men. But I also put some of the onus on black men. We have to redefine what masculinity is. We cannot continue to see masculinity in the physical sense. We cannot continue to see masculinity as this, I conquer everything around me. I'm aggressive. I'm tough. I'm strong. I don't show emotions. We have to stop showing masculinity that way, because people think that's who we are. Like when you ask somebody to describe a black male, usually they describe it physically. Usually they describe the aggression. And you see all of the images on TV, whether it's the thug image, whether it's the macho man image, whether it's the buff image, the tough image, all these different images that are partly some black men, but not a representation of all black men. So we have to redefine as black men and understand fully for ourselves what masculinity is. See, I believe that we teach people how to treat us. I say that again. I believe that we teach people how to treat us. So if you teach somebody what masculinity is to you and what it means in the truthful sense, in a deeper sense than just the physical, then they will treat you in kind. My grandfather was one of the most masculine men, that I know. But he wasn't an aggressive man. He was actually kind of soft-spoken, a big dude, but not really a person who fought for the sake of fighting, who demonstrated masculinity physically. He was kind of the quiet storm. You knew not to do too much because you knew he could handle the situation if he needed to. And the times he had to prove that, he proved that. But at the end of the day, everybody knew that that quiet storm was all the man that he needed to be. And we respected that. The women respected that. It didn't have to be machoism all the time. But he was one of the strongest men that I knew. And a model example to what I want to be. Be a quiet storm. You ain't always got to be tough and tumble. And if you have emotions, cry. If you have pain, show that. Express that. Be real, be authentic, be honest with where you are, who you are, and how you feel. So for me, it's not just a matter of black women trying to remedy emasculate black men. It's also about black men understanding ourselves and what manhood is as opposed to boyhood, and what maturity is as opposed to immaturity, and we living in that truth. So I think her question is valid because I think it's a question that's on the minds of a lot of people. I've seen so many things. The internet is full of people trying to figure this thing out. I saw one picture of a kid dancing on a pole and somebody saying, "Where's the father?" and just implying certain things about this kid who clearly was under 4 years old. And then I saw a guy dancing, I think he was dancing ballet or something in kind of like a tight-fitted outfit. And some woman made a comment about his masculinity, not really understanding that masculinity isn't just a physical thing. So I think that there's a lot of people who make the mistake of just thinking that you have to act like a man. I'm of the mindset that if you have to act like a man, are you really a man, or are you just acting? What is the difference in being a man versus acting like a man, right? There is a huge difference in actually being a man versus acting like a man. Boys have to act like men. Boys have to pretend to be tough. Boys have to pretend to be aggressive. Boys have to pretend to be stronger than they really are so that they are not treated a certain way as being weak. Men know who they are, and we simply just walk in the room and be. And once you walk in the room and be, your presence as a man is there. You don't have to advertise it with how you act, because acting like a man is completely different than actually being a man. So like I said, I think her question is valid. I think we should start answering and asking and answering questions about masculinity and manhood, but also about femininity and femalehood in the black community. But we also need to expand our understanding beyond the small little paradigms that we have been stuck in for the past 200, 300 years, because they have never sufficiently answered the question of masculinity versus femininity. It answered the cardinal expressions of masculinity and femininity, the human expression, but it ignores all of the most 90% plus of it, which is on a non-physical presence of masculinity and femininity. If we don't answer those questions, if we don't ask those questions, if we don't try to internalize and understand those things, then we'll never get it, and we'll continue to go around the same circle, dealing with toxic masculinity, dealing with misogyny, anti-womanness, anti-LGBTQ+, because it confuses some people and they don't really understand that it falls in the paradigm of masculinity and femininity. It's not an aberration. It's actually a part of the norm in humanity. When we start being real and we start dealing with the stuff that I consider 90% of the actual masculinity and femininity, then we will actually get to a place of comfort and peace, and people can show up as they are and fit in the moment and be able, as I said earlier, to interweave between their masculinity and their femininity. That's it. I want to get on there and answer her question and talk around the subject because I do think it's an important subject to talk about. Family, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Once again, remember to hit that like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Tell a friend, share the videos, leave comments. Let's grow this channel. Let's blow this thing up. As I always say, I love you all with the highest love that Spirit has made possible on this planet humanly. And I will see you in the next video.